Everyone, welcome. It's Darren. Today's video is the first of a four-part series of videos on how to move files in and out of Excel. The first video, which is this one, we're going to talk about how to move files in from other files, other Excel files, but files of other types as well. Then that's going to be followed by our next video. Next video, we're going to be talking about how to get data from web pages. So you see a table on a web page. How do you drag that in to Excel and have it useful? Uh, Third video is how to send data out of Excel and make that useful in various file formats. And then finally, we're going to do a video on how to kind of reduce the amount of data that you have in Excel, get that out to other people in a format that is what they want, what they need, without burying them with too much garbage, without running into email space limits, that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and get started. On the screen here, you see I have six different files in six different file formats. These are GPS track data files, actually from a hike I did a couple days ago. Uh, if you're wondering what a GPS track data file is, you've probably seen them, but probably never knew you were looking at them. If you look at a GPS, any GPS program, in your car or wherever, and it shows the line of where you've been, uh, what roads you followed, what trail you've hiked or mountain biked or whatever, that's stored in a GPS track file. And the native format for a GPS track file in open file format is the GPX file here. And that's the format that I exported from my phone actually to get this data. Let's take a look at what that looks like here. So I have opened this up. This is the GPX file here. Uh, the GPX file is called a XMS file, Extensible Markup Language. And the XML file is pretty standard. A lot of systems use XML now in one form or another. And you use it all the time when you're looking at web pages. HTML files, which is standard web page format, that's just a form of XML. So if you look at a file and you see stuff, it may say XML at the top, it may say something else at the top. But what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to see stuff like this. You're going to see tags. And a tag is just one or more words inside of those brackets. You'll have an opening tag. You see it says name, and you'll have a closing tag, slash name. And the stuff in between there is your actual data. So if we come down here, you see color and slash color. So that is the color of the next piece of data. So that's how you recognize an XML file. Now, what other kinds of file formats do we typically run into? Well, you have this is a, well, we'll come back to that one. This is a CSV file, comma separated variable. It's the most common form of a delimited file. Uh, Comma separated variables or CSV files, delimited files. Um, this makes it really easy to move data between different programs that don't really speak each other's language. And if you look at a CSV file, what you're going to see is a single line is a single row of data in Excel, for example. And here, all of the data items are in quotes and they're separated by commas. So this is, P and then a date time. And this is date time format here. And then you have latitude and longitude and 184.8. I know that's not elevation. So this one apparently didn't store elevation. If it stored it really badly. Oh no, it's 184.8 meters. Uh, so that probably is elevation. Um, then you get a distance here to the next mark. If you have a blank piece of data, you'll just have extra commas. So That's a CSV file. They don't always look exactly like this, though. In this case, for example, we have the same data, but instead of the comma, it has asterisks in here. And sometimes you don't have the quotes around the text, sometimes you do. Sometimes you'll actually have to put something else around the text. For example, if your data actually contains that double quote, you can't use the double quote as a delimiter because it'll stop and just get lost. So sometimes you'll wind up with different things here. Okay, what else do we have? Well, another common format, not as common as it used to be, is the fixed width format. So this is actually exactly the same data. Uh, so actually here, so this column here was accuracy apparently. Um, so it's the same data, but you have a fixed width. So you have this space here is a column. Your date time is a column, and that got overwritten, so that would actually be a lot longer. Um, and the fixed width formats, so they're not so common on new systems, but if you're working with mainframe systems, older systems, this is pretty much how they were all done. So if you're either getting data in from like a big mainframe system, from an old system, from a system that's been around, it's been around for 30 years, it's been updated maybe, but it's been around. You may get something that looks like this. Uh, and then you get stuff like this. And this is actually, if you look up here at the top, this is actually an XLS file. This is a standard Microsoft Excel file. It's the older format. And this is binary data. And as we look down through here, we get, here's our actual data. We have the date and time. Then we get weird stuff out here. And the date time is a text string, and the other stuff is numbers. And it's actually just representing those numbers in binary. And that's why it's a little hard to read there. Then we come over here. This is XLSX, and this is also a binary file, although it is an XML file. It's an encrypted XML file. Let's see how we actually get these into Excel. Okay, so if we're in Excel and we know I can come in here and I can just do File, Open, and I can open up, browse to the right location, and I can open up this file. And obviously it opens up. Let's open up that other Excel file too while I'm here. Because a lot of times what you'll wind up with is that somebody will send you an update file. So you'll have a running file of all of your data, and every month you get a new file in, and you'd like to be able to add that as a new file. So what you can do, a couple ways to do this. Let's actually just split these up a little bit so I can see these as two windows. Okay. So a couple of options. You can add a tab, come over here and just do Control A, Control C to copy. Come over here, Control V, and now you have a new tab with that. If we wind this up, you can actually see both tabs. You can also take this tab and move or copy, pick a different sheet. And which sheet am I on? There we go. And tell it to move. It can't because it contains the same information. So, well, actually, it's not because it contains the same information. I could copy this the other direction. Over copy to end. of that one. And the error that I got before, uh, XLS files contain far fewer rows and columns than SLXX files. So you can copy the entire sheet from a XLS to an XLSX, or from XLS to XLS, or XLSX to XLSX, but you can't copy an entire sheet from SLSX into SLX because it doesn't fit. But you can, as you saw, just select all the data and copy that over. That does work. Okay, so that's the easiest form. What if you have one of these other file types? Well, let's get rid of these ones here. Nah, I don't need to save those. Nah, I don't need to save that. Okay, so what if you have one of these other file types? Let's take a look at the one of the delimited ones here. I'm going to go ahead and I only see the XLS files here, but I can come down here and pick different file types. Now it has a lot of different file types. Let's actually go through these real quick. Uh, all Excel files, web pages. You can open web pages. Sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it makes no sense. XML, we talked about what XML are. We'll come back to those in a minute. Text files, that is PRN, which is a form of fixed width. TXT and CSV. Uh, all data sources, that's a database thing. Access databases. Query files is also a database. DBase files. DBase haven't been around in a while. Um, Older versions of Excel. These are really old versions of Excel. Excel 4 hasn't been around a long time. Worksheets, which again are Excel files. Workspaces, Excel files. Excel templates, add-ins, toolbars, SLK data interchange format. I've never seen that one used in real life, although some places do use it. And Excel backup files. Open document spreadsheet. Open document spreadsheet is another one that does get used. I think I've mentioned before on this channel. For my personal stuff, I actually do use uh, Open Office. If you don't own a copy of Excel and you don't have to like share extreme formatting or anything like that, uh, OpenOffice is a great program to load up on your computer at home. It's completely free and does just about everything that Office does. And did I mention it's completely free, which is why I use it on my own computer. But in this case, we're actually just going to pick all files because that lets us see everything. And let's take a look at the CSV file. So if we go into the CSV file, it just opens it right up, which is great. Um, so let's open up another one here. The reason it could open the CSV, and you see it did actually bring in the columns, got the data all correct, extend that out, we see the full width there. Uh, the CSV is standard enough that it recognizes it and just knows what to do with it. Let's bring in one that's a little bit tougher for it, though. Okay, I'm going to bring in this fixed width text, and I renamed this FWT for fixed width text. Excel has no clue what an FWT file is, I assure you. Uh, so what Excel does is it brings up this dialog box. And the dialog box, anytime you're trying to open a text file, you're going to get this. Anytime you're trying to open a file that has no clue what to do with, you're probably going to get this. So your options are delimited or fixed width. Delimited, remember, is if you have like that comma delimited, the asterisk delimited, or fixed width. In this case, you also get this little preview down here that shows you what it's going to look like. So do I have headers? Yes, I do, as it happens. I want to start data import at row 3. Actually, I'm going to turn off the headers because my headers are on row 1 and that's on row 3. I'll just, I'll just do that. And it'll just give me a bad row. That's fine. Uh, so I'm going to get the headers on row 1. Row 2 is not going to be a useful data, but we have to clean that up. That's no big deal. And this is what it looks like so far. We're not done yet. Hit next, not finish. When you hit next, it puts in where it thinks your delimiter should be, where your column break should be. You can move this if you want. You can move it this way. You can move it back. If you want to put, if it's missing one, you need to drop an additional break in there, for example. You can just click on it and it'll put it in, or click on it and it'll take it back out. Double click, takes it back out. So this lets you adjust back and forth where those column breaks happen. And you can see the first part of your data, you can't see all of your data, but you can see enough of your data to get a good idea. Yeah, this is where it needs to be. And they're going to hit next. And now we can actually go through, if we want, column by column and change the formats if we care. They all typically default to general, but we can change them. For example, I can change this from general. I could change this one if I wanted it to be text, date. Usually you want general. You can actually also tell it, for example, this one over here isn't really doing anything for me. Yeah, skip that one. This one, is that 0 for everything, really? Yeah, okay, I don't need that one either. I'm going to skip that one. That one doesn't look like it does anything for me either. So I'm going to skip that one. And then when you're done, hit finish, and that'll bring in the columns that you want. And now you can always, you don't really have to do that last step because you can always come over here and, of course, format cells, and I can make those a number. Yeah, so that's how you bring in a fixed width file. Let's take a look at one of these others over here. Okay, and then I'm going to open again. And let's bring in this ASV file. Remember, this was it's a delimited file that looks like a uh, comma separated variable, but instead of the commas, I used the asterisks. And since it doesn't recognize that extension, it's going to bring this up and it's going to say, is this delimited or fixed width? Well, we just did fixed width, and this one we know is delimited. Does my data have headers? Yep, it does. Okay. We're going to go over to next. For some reason, it always defaults to tab. Tab delimited exist, but they're not real common. It's not tab delimited. It has checkboxes for tab, semicolon, comma, space. But in this case, I'm actually using an asterisk. And as soon as you type the asterisk in, it shows you in the preview how it's going to break things up. You have text qualifier. So you can use different text qualifiers here. I think you can actually even, no, you can't type it in. Okay. So you have a text qualifier as double quote, single quote, or nothing. And then you also have the ability to treat consecutive delimiters as one. And over here, for example, you have, if you remember on the original data, let's bring that back up. You have 3 commas in a row, which is because you have 2 empty data fields. So you have the ability, if you want to treat those as a single delimiter. And if we do that, you see I lose a couple columns. I don't want to do that. Sometimes you do. Usually you don't, because usually if you do that, if your data is in good columns, and if you have first name, middle name, last name, and then information, and if there's just no middle name in there, and you treat consecutive delimiters as one, all of your other data shifts one over, and it's going to mess up any calculations you're trying to do, any other formulas you're trying to do. So usually you don't want that, but it's available if you want it. And after we've set that, again, we could do finish immediately, or we can set the column types and then do finish. And that brings everything in for us. So that's how you do other delimited types. Now, anytime you're bringing data in from other programs, either you're going to get an Excel file or you're going to get some kind of a file like this. You're going to get a fixed width file or a delimited file. And how do you know what it is? Let's go put it up and take a look. If you look and you see something like this, you know it's a delimited file. If you look and you see something, where'd my fixed width go? I think I just closed my fixed width file. See something like that? Now you know it's a fixed width file. And in either case, you know how to import it. Regardless of the extension, Excel can handle these. Now, if you have a program that doesn't understand either of those, if you have a program that gives you something that looks like this, uh, just try opening it in Excel. Excel might understand it. It might not. If it doesn't, then you'll have to do something a little different. Usually that amounts to going to wherever you got this data and seeing if you can do an export there. And different programs work different ways, but usually it amounts to either an export, which gives you different types. This version of Excel only lets me export to PDF files, or you can do a save as, and you can pick different types here. Uh, these are the types that can save to. Uh, for example, if I wanted to, if I were in Microsoft Access and I had a table that I wanted to save into an Excel file, I could do that. I could just tell it to export that into a Excel file, that one table, and then I'd be able to work with that table in Excel. Most programs nowadays can export to, well, if it's tabular data like this, most can export to Excel. Others, uh, almost anything can export to either a fixed width or a uh, comma separated variable, or at least some kind of delimited file. A word of warning that sometimes you'll have to experiment a bit. And I don't have the files here. A previous job I used to work at, we used an Avaya phone system, and their reports could export into two different Excel formats. One of those Excel formats uh, exported this really weird form. It had all this extra garbage everywhere in it that you couldn't do anything with. Uh, and then the other one said Excel data only. And that's the one that you wanted if you actually wanted to actually look at it in Excel or do anything with it, because the first format was just useless. So you may have to experiment a little bit, go back and forth a little bit, uh, but it won't take you long to figure out what format works. Okay, so if you want to open these XML files, so let's take a look at that XML file that I opened. A lot of programs will save stuff as XML. So if I go to open and browse, and I know this GPX was an XML file. So I don't have a style sheet for it, so open without a. It's warning me that the GPX extension doesn't match the XML that it's expecting. That's fine. I know this. I know this file. I know it's safe. So what if I open it as an XML table? Continue. Sure. And it's kind of worthless. Okay, so let's try this again. So let's close this. And I'll save that. And we'll go back to open and browse and pick the GPX file. And okay. I'm opening it as a read-only workbook. And that's because it doesn't really understand what that file is. Doesn't quite know what to do with it. It can't open it as an XML table because there's too much in it doesn't understand. So it's a read-only workbook, and it opens up. Okay, so now if you look at this, you see a bunch of weird stuff on here. Um, but if you scroll over to the right, it's like, wait a minute, I remember a track number of 142, and that looks a lot to me like latitude and longitude and elevation and date and time. So I got the information I need. So in this case, what you can do really is, I know, okay, so there's a lot of trash here. Um, if you're tracking the track number, and you might need to, uh, you'll keep that, and you'll just, get rid of the stuff you don't need. Uh, and like I said, it's track number, latitude, longitude, elevation. Uh, Second elevation column, why that's there, I'm not sure. GPS data is a little weird, and date and time. So that gives you everything that you need. So you can get the data in. Might be a little bit messy. You might have to do a tiny bit of cleanup on it, but you can get it. So really, almost any kind of data, if you can get it out to some kind of a readable format, you can get it back in, and that's um, that's all you really need to do with it is just play with it a little bit, try different formats. If you can't open it, see if the program that sent it to you or the person that sent it to you can save it as a different format. If they can save it, if you're bringing it into Excel, if you can save it as an Excel format, of course, that's your best option. If you can't save it as Excel, comma separated variable is probably your next best bet. It's very common. It's almost everywhere. Fixed width XML is not ideal, but it works. And even if they don't know that they're saving it that way, like I said, if you look at these files here, um, that doesn't that's not labeled as an XML file, uh, but it opens as an XML file, so I was able to get the data. Any extension ending with an X, whether that's GPX or XLSX or DOCX, those are frequently XML files. So that's always worth trying. Uh, Before I go on, though, I do just want to ask for your help. If you learn anything from this video, if it's useful to you at all, if you want to see more of these, best thing you can do to help us keep going is to like the video. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit notify so you know when new videos come out. Share this with your friends on social media. Comment on the video. All of those are completely free and they really help the channel out a lot. Also, if you can, I do have a Patreon page at patreon.com/data analysis excellence. If you could help out there, membership starts just a few bucks a month. That would be great. Okay, so let's go back to Excel. Okay, so that's about the extent of what we have for importing files. There's really not much to it. You just have to get a format that you can use or create a format that you can use. If you check out our next video coming out of the series, which is bringing data in from web pages, I'm also going to talk about how to clean up your data as it comes in. Sometimes the data comes in kind of messy, but there are ways to clean that up, and we're going to talk about that some in the next video as well. So thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you at the next one.